Yeah, welcome everyone to our Asia Forum for Leaders webinar. It's a follow-up webinar. Basically, it is just encouraging all of us to work hard during the COVID time. So we have practitioners who are working extremely hard during this time. With three groups of practitioners. The first group are pastors. Second group will be missionaries, and the third will be just Christian lay people who are reaching to the world, right? So the first group are the pastors, and we have chosen three pastors from three different parts of the Philippines. The majority of our participants in this webinar are from the Philippines. Tomorrow we have one in Indonesia. All right, so today is basically three pastors from the Philippines. The one from Luzon, one from Visayas, one from Mindanao. And they basically represent what I would call the size of churches that you would come from. All right, we didn't invite people from mega churches. They don't need this webinar. They're obviously doing very well. So they are just average churches in these three areas. And one is from a city, one is from a town, and one is rural. So I think that gives us a fairly good idea how these three pastors are now using technology. Now, one of them, the first one, is still stuck in the United States. And then I did a recording with him, a recorded interview. His name is Pastor Errol Parpa. He's from Maseba Christian Church in Bacolod, Negros, right? Pastor Errol went for a conference in the US. He's been stuck there for over 3 months. And so I thought he could come back for this webinar, but he can't. He's an old friend. And let's just watch this interview, how he has been able to reach his people and continue to minister using technology, right? So let's have the interview with Pastor Errol. Pastor Errol Parpa. Pastor Errol is presently in the United States, stuck because of the lockdown situation. So we're doing an interview with him. Errol, I knew you when you were a young man, and you were a lawyer at that time. Tell me, are you a tech-savvy person or not?
I'm maybe functional. I'm not really an expert, but I know where to study. I know how to figure things out by Google or YouTube. So that's basically how I learn.
Before the COVID situation, Errol, tell us, were you already using a lot of internet ministry, or were you basically more like a traditional pastor?
I'm more of a traditional pastor, but of course, when you contact people like with Messenger, so we have group chat in our church. I have friends to check in other countries, so that's how I use technology. I use technology also in my studies. Bible helps. It's easier to check some ideas, some comments on a particular passage. So basically, that's how I utilize technology in my ministry.
And before you were stuck in the States, Errol, were you already using quite a bit of it, or was that occasion because you were stuck in America that forced you, in a sense, to use more technology?
Actually, first month I was here since February 25. So I just communicate to the people in the church, checking them if they have some concerns. So that's how I communicated with them. Not that much, because this time of the year. I'm in the US, so they know people have their assignments, so they can take care of me. That meaning they can take care of the church. But with the COVID thing, so that encouraged me to do a lot of communicating through the internet.
Errol, tell us, your church members, basically what is the demographic? Are they young? Are they professionals? And give me some idea of your demographic in your church.
Our church are basically young professionals. There are some students. So we have older people, maybe 5, 6 of them. So that's our profile, 150 to 200 people attending our different services.
Right. And when you were away in the States and you had to minister to them using technology, was there some kind of pushback that from your church people? They're not comfortable with their pastor, maybe counseling them or having prayer meetings. Did you have a pushback from your people?
I praise God that the people in the church understood the situation, so there's not much of a resistance. Everyone just adjust. Probably the struggle there is I'm very far. I'm in the U.S. I wish I could talk to them personally to encourage them, but I'm glad that the people volunteered to help in the recording of the services and in taking care of church members who may be in need, how to record our services, whether we have to do it live or we just pre-record it. So these are the things that maybe gave me initially some struggles, but it turned out well later.
Right now, how are you ministering to your people that you're halfway around the world? What are you doing that is, you feel you're ministering to people? What are you using?
I'm using different platforms. I use Messenger. I use Zoom, and now there's Facebook Room, and I think that's better compared to Zoom because it has no time limit, and almost everyone, all people in the Philippines are using Facebook or Messenger. So I call, I tell my staff to just keep on calling some members in my behalf, since I can't do I can't do it. I mean, calling them and talking to them. So I did some checking, but not really all members in 1 week, and I think we're okay.
What are you doing besides giving like live preaching on Sunday? Tell us what are you doing through the week for your people using, being halfway around the world?
Yeah, it's more on Bible studies. So I've never been this busy in my in my life in doing Bible study. So using Zoom. So we have doctors fellowship. So there are a few lawyers. So we have our fellowship also. Some professionals, men. I'm also meeting some of our young people. I think that's how I did it. But what's interesting is I get to have opportunity also to do Bible study here in the US, like in New York, because of the pandemic, and my pastor friend there has work. He's a teacher, so he can't really focus on doing Bible study. He has, I mean, he can't really give 100% time of Bible study to his people in the church. But I think with people in New York, because of the COVID thing, and they're practically at the center during that time. So imagine every day they have nothing to look forward except that I might have COVID tomorrow. I might have COVID tomorrow. I might have COVID tomorrow. But because of this technology, even I'm here in Memphis, like I'm quite far away, but I could volunteer, and I did Bible study, and it kept on growing. There are even some people in the Philippines who joined, and another also opportunity to do Bible study online here in Memphis. And like 3 days ago or 4 days ago, I have a follow-up in Vietnam. So I did also with 3 Vietnamese. So these are the opportunities that I'm grateful to God because of technology, even though I'm here in the US.
What else do you do? For example, like as a pastor, do you have an assistant pastor in your church that runs the church while you're?
Right now, no. I have some campus ministry workers who's helping me, and the church secretary.
And like, for example, like the Lord's Supper and things, you've been away like 3 months. Now, what are you doing about that?
Um, I think 3 weeks ago we decided to have Lord's Supper online, and because basically I believe that uh, Lord's Supper is we want to celebrate. It's like birthday that because of the situation, it um, doesn't have to be everyone should be physically present in the house or in the building to celebrate. But I believe that even though we are using technology in in celebrating the Lord's Supper, there's unity in us. We could feel that we're one. We feel that we're one body. We could feel the connection as a church when we ate that bread and drink the cup. So that's my perspective as far as Lord's Supper is concerned.
So they actually gathered together. Is that right? They actually
Yes.
gathered in one place for the Lord's Supper.
Um, what we did that time, because we have our recorded service, and after that we use Zoom, and they're wherever they are, they just prepare the bread and the drink, and together we celebrated it. And that's also the time that I gave some updates about the church, what's going on right now.
Right, right. Okay. Now, do you feel that you are closer to your members now because of COVID, because of all the technologies that can connect you regularly, or do you feel more detached because of being away?
uh, I don't think that I became closer or detached, because it's just the same thing. We could feel the warmth, even though we're just facing each other in the screen, and church members would say, "Oh, I really miss you," but it feels good to that we can finally talk together. So our church basically we're a little bit close to each other. So probably that made it. We felt the same. We felt the same, whether physically or in the screen. But I had an interesting experience last Monday. I went to my neighbor's house and had dinner there, and there's one little boy who climbed climbed on me and hugged me, and it felt different though. And I said, "Oh, no one hugged me for the past 3 months, and it feels good." So probably that's what I'm looking forward if things might go normal in the coming years, maybe.
Right. Errol, knowing your wife's a doctor, you probably know that this might drag on a while. Do
Yes.
you think that even if this was to drag on, your church would still continue to grow, to add numbers to it, that people will be discipled in spite of having to use more technology than face-to-face? What is your thinking?
I think it's still possible. It's still possible that the church would grow because there's no boundary right now. Anyone can join your church, even people in Antarctica or Alaska, as long as there's an internet. So if you have friends or relatives, they could just invite them, and if you have pre-recorded services, you can send it to them. So it broadens, but people have just church members and pastors has to be intentional in reaching out in checking people, in inviting people, in sharing the gospel. So I believe if everyone would just do their part, nothing can stop the church.
Do you think in this time you're away, have people dropped out of your church, or have people been added, or status quo in these 3 months?
We're still in the wait and see period. For me, like two months, it's too short to really evaluate things. But it seems the people in the church are still there, except for those who went to their hometown and there's no internet access. So we will see. One indication that we can check how people support the church by attending is through how many views we had in Facebook and YouTube. That's where we post our services. But of course, it's not that 100% reliable, because one person can click it like twice, thrice, or 5 times.
So the numbers have not dropped, right, Errol? They're basically
Relatively,
pretty much there.
yes. I believe most of the people that I'm ministering in the church, they're just around.
One last question, Errol. What are your offerings? Have you seen a significant change in your offerings?
Our church giving, of course, it dropped a bit, but because of the you have less expense, you have lesser expense, so it did not hurt us. We had deficit last March, but we have surplus in April, and this coming this May, we have reached our monthly target. So the Lord is just faithful.
How did you keep this up in the sense that people were not coming to church? How did they give their offerings? Did you do something?
We just announced that you could drop your offering in the church, or they could deposit it in our bank account. Those are only the two modes that we have right now in the church. So people could just go to the church and drop their offering. And some who have access to online banking, they did it too, through phone or maybe computer.
Very good. Errol, hope we get back to the Philippines soon. I heard you have a flight into the Philippines. Hope you can hug somebody in your church soon. But thanks so much for being with us. I believe the Lord will use you, and I see your ministry going well beyond Bacolod into Antarctica and Alaska and Vietnam. All right. God bless you. Good to see you, Errol. Thank you so much.
Can I share this in closing? I think it's not an issue whether you are doing it in a traditional way or through technology. I think what really matters to church members is that they know that we love them and we care for them, and we are feeding them rightly. And because if we do that, the technology or the traditional way won't matter. It is our real shepherding to the church that would matter at the end.
Wonderful. That's wonderful words of advice. Love them and shepherd them, and the Lord will do the rest. Thank you, Errol. God bless you, and see you soon in the Philippines.
Thank you, BC. See you soon.
Yeah. God bless. Thank you.
God bless you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Pastor Errol Parpa.